Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you today. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Sifa Dian and my student number is 18010500099. In this good occasion, I'm looking forward to talking with you about a social phenomenon that is often encountered among the students. That is juvenile delinquency. Well, ladies and gentlemen, adolescence is a transitional period from childhood to adulthood. This is the time when the teenagers are looking for their identities and want to know who they really are. They tend to be curious about something new in their life. However, during that period, there are many deviations that occur. And reporting from sindonews.com, according to the Indonesian Child Protection Commission, or KPAI, the number of children who become criminals has increased every year. Even from 2011 to the end of 2018, as many as 11,116 children in Indonesia were involved in criminal cases. Now I will divide my presentation into four main parts. The first is explanation, and the second is kinds of juvenile delinquency, and the third is the causes. There are two factors, internal and external factors, and the fourth is solution, how to overcome the problems. And let us start from the first point, that is explanation about juvenile delinquency. Okay, as you can see on the screen, there are three explanations from the experts. The first is coming from Sarwono. In 2002, he stated that juvenile delinquency is a behavior that deviates from or violates the law. And the second is coming from Musen et al. In 1994, juvenile delinquency is an illegal behavior committed by young people who are usually under the age of 16 until 18 years old. And the third is coming from Singgih. In 1978, juvenile delinquency is a behavior which is done by a teenager, either alone or in groups, that violates the law, moral, and social provisions that apply in their community. So, it can be concluded that juvenile delinquency is a deviant behavior committed by adolescents and is against the law, moral, and social norms. Okay, let us move on to the second point. The first kind of juvenile delinquency is drug abuse. Some of the adolescents who use drugs start from a high sense of curiosity, so that they finally decide to try it. In some cases, the teenagers are also influenced by their friends who used drugs for the first time, and the rate of drug abuse by adolescents is increasing. According to the National Narcotics Agency, the number of drug abuse among the students in 2018 from 13 provincial capitals in Indonesia reached 2.29 million people. While many of people think that theft is often committed by people over the age of 20. However, this is not the case. Many adolescents commit acts of theft which are based on various factors such as economic and environmental factors. Moreover, there was an increase in theft cases in Jakarta, which occurred in 2019. Only 1,279, but in 2020 it increased to 1,456 cases. We will move to the third kind of juvenile delinquency. Juvenile delinquency is carried out by groups of students from certain schools with various supporting factors, and maybe it only starts from trivial matters but are exaggerated to cause dispute between the two parties. Even the Indonesian Child Protection Commission, or KPAI, recorded that brawl cases in Indonesia increased by 1.1% in 2018. We will continue the material about the factors of juvenile delinquency. There are two internal factors. The first is crisis of identity. This crisis of identity occurs because the adolescents will experience a feeling of getting recognition in their environment, as well as a role identity that has begun to be carried out. When these two things cannot be achieved by the adolescents, there is a tendency for them to commit violations of norms and lead to juvenile delinquency. The second is weak self-control. The teenagers who have weak self-control abilities are usually unable to distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable behavior in society, so that they will have the potential to commit or violate norms or bad behavior. Okay, we will continue to the external factors. The first is lack of attention and compassion. In this case, the family becomes the primary educational environment to educate children so that they can behave well in society. Therefore, the children need good assistance and support from parents and families. And the second is lack of religious understanding. In this case, parents need to provide good religious education to children from an early age. That's because through religious education, the children can get moral values that apply in society. And the third is environmental influence. Here, playmates or peers provide an important role for every developing the teenager. A child who is in a bad friendship, a child who is in a bad friendship environment will certainly have many bad influences and vice versa. And the fourth is school. In this case, school becomes the second environment which has the potential as a place for juvenile delinquency. The fourth material, that is solutions to overcome the problem. The first is building assertive communication. As long as we know, in adolescent, individuals prefer to express their feelings and tell their problems to their friends. They feel anxious and uncomfortable when communicating with their parents, since they feel fear that their parents will react negatively. Therefore, the best way for teenagers to tell their parents about themselves is to build assertive communication. The second solution is it is so important for parents to understand why their children get involved in juvenile delinquency. Parents tend to be angry and judge their children when they do something that violates norms without knowing the reason why their children do this. Okay, the last point is improving school conditions. Schools are educational institutions that have a strong influence on adolescent development. There are many things that can be done by the school to start adolescent improvement, such as doing youth coaching program through religious activities, extracurricular, and organizing various positive activities for teenagers. That brings me to the end of my presentation. So let me say something, that juvenile delinquency is a problem that must be resolved immediately. Therefore, the problems of juvenile delinquency should get serious attention to focus and direct teenagers towards more positive. As the closing, I will quote a statement from someone. I know I'm supposed to be preparing my teenagers for life and all, but it's hard when they already know everything. So I hope this material will be useful for you, and thank you for your attention, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.